9 American tourists have died unexpectedly in the Dominican Republic, and that has focused an uncomfortable spotlight on the Caribbean nation. Is there anything to this? Hey everyone, this is Jeff. JR is the producer, and you're listening to episode 169 of Plain English, the best podcast for learning English with current events. Happy Independence Day to those of you in the United States. If you want to learn more about how Americans celebrate Independence Day, we did an episode on that topic just about a year ago at plainenglish.com/62. As for this episode, the transcript of this one can be found at plainenglish.com/169. On today's episode, 9 American tourists have died so far in 2019 in the Dominican Republic. Some of them died unexpectedly, many after drinking liquor. And now some Americans are wondering if the Caribbean island destination is safe to visit. Plus, later in the episode, I'll show you how to use the phrase can't help but. And then JR, of course, has a song of the week. Before we jump in, I wanted to remind you about Audible. They are the ones who bring us audiobooks online, one a month for being a subscriber. So check it out and get one audiobook for free at plainenglish.com/book. A recent spate of tourist deaths in the Dominican Republic has many Americans asking if the tropical island is safe to visit. So far in 2019, 9 Americans have died while vacationing in the Dominican Republic, and many of the deaths happened at luxury resorts. The most recent was a 56-year-old man from Long Island, New York, who fell sick after having something to drink and was dead later the same night. Other deaths include a couple from Maryland who were found dead at their hotel room, a 41-year-old Pennsylvania woman who collapsed and died at the same hotel, a 55-year-old man from New Jersey, a 53-year-old woman from New York, and the 41-year-old sister of a reality television star also died, though that was reportedly of natural causes. The couple from Maryland reportedly suffered from internal bleeding, and more than a few of the tourists died after having consumed alcohol from the minibar in their hotel rooms. That's not all. David Ortiz, a retired baseball player, was shot in the back in an apparent case of mistaken identity. The shooter, not that this makes it any better, but the shooter was trying to hit someone else, but the bullet almost killed the future Hall of Famer and beloved sports icon of Boston. Over 2 million American tourists visit the island each year, primarily to the beachfront resort towns of Punta Cana and La Romana. Many tourists also visit the capital, Santo Domingo, which is one of the earliest cities founded by European settlers in the 14 and 1500s. There are a lot of people with Dominican heritage in the New York area. Convenient flights and cultural ties make it an attractive destination for people from the northeast of the United States. But now a controversy is raging in the press between two sides. One side sees an unmistakable trend toward mysterious tourist deaths, and the other side compares the death rate in the Dominican to that of many American cities. The latter camp can't help but note that it's actually safer to be a tourist in the Dominican than a resident of certain American cities. There are some supporting facts on each side. First, the chances of a visitor dying of unnatural causes, such as a motor vehicle accident or homicide in the Dominican Republic, are slimmer than the chances of suffering a homicide in the U.S. Other popular Caribbean destinations, including the Bahamas and Jamaica, experience a comparably higher rate of tourist deaths from unnatural causes. And some of the people who died had existing medical conditions. David Ortiz, the baseball player, was shot at a nightclub in the capital, which is not the kind of place most American tourists go. All these facts argue that the publicity about the Dominican is overblown and that there is little cause for concern for tourists. And yet, how do so many otherwise healthy people die at such a relatively young age, especially since many of them fell sick after drinking alcohol? Dominican authorities and the FBI are now investigating the possibility that counterfeit alcohol is behind the mysterious illnesses and deaths. 9 people in the last year have died of either fluid in the lungs or a heart attack, both of which are symptoms of methanol poisoning. The process of distilling alcohol involves separating ethanol, which is safe to drink, from methanol, which is poisonous. Regulated, supervised distilling does this correctly. Counterfeit, cheap, and unregulated distilling may not. You may remember a similar situation developed in Mexico in 2017 and 2018, where hundreds of gallons of bootleg tequila was found to have lethal levels of methanol. It's not known for sure if this is the cause, but one expert in food poisoning said that the idea of counterfeit alcohol is a credible hypothesis. One more fact for you. Out of a group of 114 Jimmy Buffett fans that visited the island as a group, 47 reported getting sick. One thing that's not in doubt: the government of the Dominican Republic has been slow to respond to the crisis. The island's Minister of Tourism, Francisco Javier Garcia, insisted that these recent deaths are neither out of the ordinary nor mysterious. He also said that officials and hotel proprietors would enhance security and try to minimize the risks of food poisoning. Some hotels say that they have removed minibars from guest rooms. One hotel, the Punta Cana, has said that it would put up a healthcare facility that conforms with U.S. standards of care on its premises. I want to say hi to Stefan from Germany. He listens to us on his 3.5-hour commute. Yikes. He commutes to Munich from the city of Heidelberg. He has a lot of international colleagues, so he uses his commute to brush up on English. He doesn't do it every day, but 3.5 hours is a lot, and I thought those of you in Sao Paulo had long commutes. By the way, I hope everyone is staying cool in Europe. From what I understand, Europe is suffering from quite a heat wave. Some of you were complaining of 40-degree temperatures. I'll mention this in a minute, but I was watching a game in London and it was 32 degrees, which is really hot for London. That's a typical summer day here, but it's a heat wave in London. Anyway, I hope you're staying cool wherever you are, and it occurs to me that if you're going to the beach, you might want to take along an audiobook to listen to after you're all caught up on plain English, obviously. Audiobooks are a fun way to experience good beach reads while you lay back and relax. A beach read is like a book that doesn't require too much concentration. I just started a biography of Winston Churchill, not a beach read. But the good news is you can browse thousands of audiobook titles and even download one for free. You can listen in English or in your own language. Just visit plainenglish.com/book and you will find all the details you need on that page. It works just as well at the pool too, by the way, in case you prefer the pool to the beach. plainenglish.com/book. I was all set to do out of the ordinary as today's phrase when JR told me that was too easy. It means uncommon. So there, I did it. But JR told me I had to do a harder one, and so we agreed that I would do this tricky one, which is can't help but. A certain group of people in the media can't help but note that it's safer to be on vacation in the Dominican Republic than it is to walk around your own hometown, especially if you live in some areas with high crime rates in the United States. That group of people can't help but notice that the Dominican is safer in some respects than places in the United States. They can't help but notice. When you can't help but something, you don't have any real control over it. It just kind of happens. You don't necessarily want it to happen. You don't necessarily want it not to happen. But it just happens. If you can't help but notice something, you just notice it. You weren't looking for it. So some people, when they heard about the crime rate in the Dominican, they did the math and, well, look, it's a lot less than it is in Baltimore or St. Louis or parts of Chicago. I can't help but notice that it's more dangerous in parts of the United States. I can't help but notice. I noticed it even though I wasn't looking for it specifically. It's common to say you can't help but wonder. On Saturday, the Yankees and the Red Sox played the first Major League Baseball game ever in Europe. It's the middle of the baseball season here, and the two teams went to London to play a quick 2-game series. The score of the first game was 17-13, Yankees winning. That's like an American football score. In baseball, they score 2, 3, 4, maybe 6 or 7 runs a game. 17-13 is an extremely high-scoring game. Now, I can't help but wonder if the pitchers weren't thrown off their routine by the time change, all the publicity, the pomp and circumstance. Baseball players are creatures of habit. In the middle of the year, they had to go to London to play a highly anticipated game. I can't help but wonder if the break in the routine caused the pitchers to lose their focus and give up so many runs. I can't help but wonder. This is making me wonder. I can't prevent it. I just watched the game, and this made me wonder. Did the break in the players' routine affect the way they played? Speaking of that game, the first home run came in the first inning. Aaron Hicks hit one over the right field wall, and I couldn't help but smile when I saw two youngsters, one wearing a Brussels baseball t-shirt, when those two caught the ball. They looked like they were 8 or 10 years old. And if you're a young baseball fan, then catching a home run ball is like the ultimate dream. And this was the first game in Europe, so I couldn't help but smile when a kid from Brussels got the first home run ball. That's a memory for life, and I'm glad someone from Europe got to catch it instead of a tourist from America. I couldn't help but smile. We did an episode right around the new year, episode 116, about American sports leagues trying to expand their brands abroad. After watching this game and seeing how successful it was in London, I can't help but think that baseball will try to have games in other cities in Europe in the future. I can't help but think that because it generated so much publicity, not only with Americans in London, not only with Japanese and Korean fans who grew up with baseball, but also with British people who were watching a game for the first time. I can't help but think, after this success, that they'll try it again in another city. This is a tough one, but I hope you get the idea. You can use it with a variety of verbs that are usually reflexive emotions. Can't help but wonder, can't help but smile, can't help but notice, can't help but think, can't help but feel, can't help but say, can't help but worry, things like that. All right, JR tells me we have a song of the week for today. It's nominated by Junio from Brazil. The song is American Pie by Don McLean. It's an old one. It came out in 1971, and it's really long, over 8 minutes. Actually, the longest song to be a Billboard #1 hit. But it's a total classic. Everyone knows it. It's got some meandering lyrics, and there's a lot of debate about what some of them mean. But the main line is, "The day the music died," and that refers to a plane crash in 1959 that killed Buddy Holly and Ritchie Valens, two of the early stars of American rock and roll music, tragically killed in a plane crash in Iowa in 1959. Don McLean had a funny line. People would always ask him what the song means. What do the lyrics mean? They would ask. And he got fed up with the question. And he just said, the song means I don't have to work again. That's a good one. McLean didn't really have any other big hits, but this was a big one for sure. American Pie by Don McLean. Thanks Junio in Brazil. Thanks JR for this week's selection. If you would like to nominate your favorite English song, please email your selection to jr@plainenglish.com. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. By now, you know who will be the finalists in Sunday's Women's World Cup final game. I'm recording this early, so I don't know who's going to the final just yet. But if you're interested in watching, that will be Sunday afternoon in Europe, Sunday morning here in the Americas. Thanks again for being with us on this Thursday edition of Plain English. Happy 4th of July. Remember, we are with you every Monday and every Thursday, and we also send out some great resources with every episode, even more than what we have on the website. To get those, sign up at plainenglish.com/mail. That's all for today. JR and I will be back with another exciting episode on Monday. If you've enjoyed today's episode, then you'll love Plain English Plus. That's because with Plain English Plus, you can get even more from your favorite English podcast. We offer video lessons, flashcards, 2 versions of every episode, and of course, our famous online transcripts with translations into 7 languages. What are you waiting for? Come join us at plainenglish.com/plus.